Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, the 283rd day of this year. There are 82 days left in 2023, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. It's fall out there, yeah, and it feels good. The Christmas in the air. This weekend, people were out walking, running, biking through the neighborhood. It felt good. And there are plenty of fall festivals. No matter where you are in this country, there's a fall festival going on somewhere near you. There are wine and chili festivals, Oktoberfest at several locations around the country. There's a scare festival. I guess that has to do with Halloween. There's the sheep festival. I don't know what that one is. There's a festival to fit your taste and a location near you. There are seafood festivals, fishing rodeos, art walks, beer festivals, Halloween haunted houses. So get out, enjoy that cool weather and local fall festivals. Our G-list guests today are two great guys, Byron Franklin and Joe Cribbs. Joe Cribbs was a great football player at Auburn University. He was the second-round draft choice of the Buffalo Bills. He is still ranked fourth in career rushing yardage at Auburn University. That's all the great running backs who've been there. He's still ranked fourth. After being drafted in the second round, 29th overall in the 1980 NFL draft, Cribbs went on to start all 16 games in his rookie year with the Buffalo Bills. We look forward to having him here today. And he's got his good friend with him, Byron Franklin. Byron also got drafted by the Buffalo Bills. They were talking earlier about who followed who. I'll let them settle that when they come on here as to who followed who. But Byron was a second-round pick. He sat 7 years with the Buffalo Bills and the Seattle Seahawks. He returned to Auburn where he completed his degree, and I should say that Joe completed his degree as well. Byron served 12 years on the Auburn University Board of Trustees, and I look forward to talking to him about that. He is a minister, and he coaches youth, middle school, and high school football. We look forward to hearing from both of those guys a little later on in the show. Our show today, of course, is sponsored by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl customizes the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable regulars and speak with Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara Wallace Edwards. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Thom. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm fine. Does everybody always address you by the full name, Barbara Wallace Edwards?
No, just you. Just
me. I thought about that when I said it. It's like, wow, why do I always? But everybody always calls me Thom Gossam. They don't ever just say the first name. They say both. And I've just gotten in the habit of calling you by all three of your names. So.
That's okay. I accept all three.
So what's happening in your world, Barbara?
Well, Thom, first I want to comment on that beautiful photo that you posted on social media this past weekend. It was stunning. That picture of the
sunrise.
Sunrise. Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Absolutely I get up pretty early, and sometimes that sun's rising up over the bay, and it's just absolutely gorgeous.
It was breathtaking.
So if my phone's handy, I'll take a picture of it and post it. So I posted that one this weekend.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing it with the rest of us.
You're very welcome.
But Thom, I want to mention something that I wish I had $140,000 just lying around somewhere. But there's this man in Japan who dreams of a world where everyone will have their very own digital clone. It's an online avatar that could take your place and take workload off of you, especially like sitting in Zoom meetings and all of this. So for about $140,000, we could have a clone and take our place on some of these Zoom meetings. So if anybody has a 140,000 want to throw away right now, send it my way, please.
I don't know if I'd want two of me. I don't know how that would work. I've always said if it was two of me, we'd be in trouble. The world would be in trouble. So I don't know. Good thing we don't have $140,000.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't have $140,000 to play with right now, but that's a nice thought, especially just for Zoom meetings. I don't know about anything else, but sitting in on some Zoom meetings sometimes, I think that would be kind of cool to have.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, you got anything else for us?
And the other thing I wanted to mention is, Simone Biles, who has just she's just phenomenal. She wins her sixth world all around title, breaking her own record. And I want to just say congratulations to Simone.
Okay, good. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, being from Birmingham, and I know that you keep up with a lot of stuff going on up there.
Yes.
What's going on with the Magic City Classic? They're trying to move it around, I understand, and go home and home as opposed to playing it in Birmingham like they've been doing for 100 years.
100 years. There have been some discussions. Alabama A&M, actually, I think they have a new president there. I think maybe he's in his second year. And he actually has sent a cease and desist letter saying they couldn't use the university's name and images or anything else in any of the advertising, but I think they finally got that resolved. They are having a game this year, and I think they have a contract to play here in Birmingham through 2026. But there's still some discussion about whether they're going to honor that contract, if they're going to have to cut it short, or maybe another city after 2026. They know that there are other cities who are bidding on it and are very interested in moving the Classic somewhere else, but I just don't think it's going to be the same if it's not in Birmingham and if it's not at Legion Field, because that was the other discussion, moving it from Legion Field to the new Protective Stadium, which is downtown, but there's no room there for tailgating, which the Magic City Classic is one of the biggest tailgating parties in the country, I think. There's hundreds of thousands of people that come to Birmingham every year and flood the city. And
there are people who don't go to the tailgate and don't go to the game.
Absolutely. There's more people in the parking lot tailgating than there are inside the game every year.
Well, and there's a good number of them that's just walking around the track around the field.
They come to the game, never sit down. You in the game and can't tell you because they're just walking around, just greeting people and having fun inside the stadium. There's activities already starting now that's celebrating the Magic City Classic, and the Classic is not until October 28th. So that tells you how big of a deal it is here in Birmingham.
One of my early clients was the Magic City Classic. For first 3, 4, maybe 5 years, we promoted the game, and we were up in the box for one game, and everybody was having fun and drinking and eating, carrying on. Everybody was just talking, scared. And finally, somebody looked out on the field and they said, "Hey, man, the game's over," because everybody was just having a good time, man. It was great. So, anyway, are you frozen? I think you are. Okay, well, let me go to Michael right quick. Michael, where are you? Are you out there?
I'm here. Good morning, TG.
I think Barbara froze up over there. You are.
Yeah, I'm back. I don't know. I think my computer doesn't like the cool weather this morning, so it's kind of stalling on me.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just grab Michael here since I got him on here. Michael, where are you going today? You all dressed up.
I have a meeting downtown right after the show, so I figured it's best for me to go ahead and save a little time and get dressed ahead of time. So
I hear you. What's happening in your world, Michael?
Well, there's a lot of interesting things going on in the news today. But one thing is, I think there's going to be a boom in medical marijuana cards here in the state of Georgia. Georgia is going to be the first state in the nation to offer medical marijuana with pharmacies. CVS and Walgreens have signed up in order to sell medical marijuana. And there's a company called Botanical Sciences. And from what I understand, one of the owners or the owner is an Auburn grad, but looks like he's gotten a license for the state of Georgia, and they have signed some agreements to have independent pharmacies to distribute medical marijuana. So I think there are a lot of people in Georgia that will be going to get their card. And there's a doctor, Dr. Peter Grinspoon, who says that most notably, people that are having pain can treat it with marijuana use, and it's far less addictive than opioids. And he also says it's virtually impossible to overdose on it. So look out for that coming that way. And
well, that's different from what they were telling us in school. They were telling us it'll lead you to heroin and it'll lead you to all this. And I think I told you guys a story about the sheriff. He would come around to the classrooms and preach about marijuana and how dangerous it was. And this actually happened. And so one day he comes to the classroom, and so he brought 2 joints with him. And he said, I'm going to pass these 2 joints around. And if I don't get 2 joints back, I'm going to have to strip search everybody in this classroom. He passes the 2 joints around, and 4 came back.
I think every time you tell the story, more and more come back, Tom. But I
last time.
Last time I thought it was 3.
It was. I got carried away this time.
That's all right. I understand, but I get your point, man.
Go ahead, Michael.
In another story, you guys are familiar with the movie Blindside, and it was a very good movie and stuff. And most recently, Michael Oher, who the movie is about, had sued the Toohey family for the conservatorship because he thought he was legally adopted, found out he was in a conservatorship. Well, now it turns out that, the conservatorship has been ended. And according to an article, the Tooheys, the husband and wife, are both worth $100 million each. They had over 100 fast food franchises like Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they sold several of them for $200 million. So they said they really were not taking the money from him and they didn't need it. And it comes out that the royalties from the movie was somewhere between $700,000 to $770,000, of which it was evenly divided between all of them, including Michael Oher. Michael Oher now is worth about $12 million. So that's how that is. The conservatorship is over with, and I guess they're going to move on. So that's an interesting twist there to that story.
Well, let me ask you this: he got $12 million. What's he fussing about? He was. I didn't read the whole thing, but there was some discussion, and he was upset with the Toohey, however you pronounce their names.
Tooheys, yeah. I don't know. So. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. And there's a couple funny things. It's football season, so there's a lot of crazy things happening, right?
Yeah.
And this past weekend, there was the Red River shootout between Texas and Oklahoma. And as everybody knows, Texas and Oklahoma will be joining the SEC next year. But, there was this one Texas fan that was so confident that the Longhorns were going to win the game. She dressed up in a T-shirt that says, I'm horny. In other words, the Horns, Texas are the Longhorns, and they're called the Horns. So she had on her shirt, I'm horny, and she was going to be, talking about the Horns winning. Well, the Horns did not win. They lost, and they got a picture of her sitting there with a sad face on, with her T-shirt on, I'm horny. So she's been laughed about and talked about for having that shirt on. I can't imagine she didn't give it a second thought as to what that shirt was.
She probably did. She had put her phone number on there. She got a lot of calls.
I'm sure. And she wasn't a bad looking girl either. So there you go. But one thing, Tom, Barbara, from a spiritual standpoint, do you believe in the afterlife? Most people do, especially people that were brought up in the church. Nowadays, you have people that are atheists and what have you. There's a story about a woman from Phoenix, Arizona. She was getting ready to go on a hike. And right before the hike occurred, she had a heart attack. And her husband was with her, and, you know, she had to be resuscitated and what have you, and it just didn't work. And for about 27 minutes, she was basically dead. They got her to the hospital. Somehow they continued to work on her. She came back, and when she woke up, she asked for pen and paper. And her husband says that she started making marks. He couldn't tell what it was, and that he was almost shaking. You know, he was just fixated on her. And she ended up writing on some paper, "It's real." And he was like, "What's real? The pain, the hospital?" And her eyes were closed. She fully vented and said, "No, no." And her daughter said, "Heaven?" And she said, "Yes." She says, "I saw Jesus's face, and it was unbelievable, the rest and the peacefulness of what I was experiencing. Jesus was standing there with his arms wide open, and right behind Jesus standing was an incredible glow that was the most vibrant and beautiful yellow. And that was her out-of-body experience. And she said, Jesus is real, heaven is real. I died for 27 minutes and I saw what was in the afterlife. It wasn't scary, it was incredible.
Wow.
Okay.
Amazing.
So, you know, there have been a lot of stories by people that have said that, you know, they lost consciousness and they experienced this and that and what have you, you know, and, you know, some doctors said that right before you leave, it's the brain activity and your life passes before you and stuff. So they're saying that's not uncommon for people to have this experience. However, this woman is saying that she experienced the afterlife.
She had it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Real.
Yeah. But she's back to talk about it. And so, and that's fortunate for her, as a matter
Very
of fact.
fortunate for her. Yes.
Yeah.
So what'd she say? It's real?
Yeah. It's real.
And the other woman said, I'm horny. So we got you. Okay. Okay then.
Well, let's just say there was a difference in age there. The lady that experienced the afterlife, I think she was 57.
Okay.
The girl that said that she was horny, she's a student at Texas. So
Okay.
just for a little context there, TJ.
Yeah.
Okay then, as they say. Either one of you got anything else?
Well, I just have to tell you, you know, the gift that keeps on giving, and that is the former president, Donald J. Trump. You know, he can't help himself.
I couldn't figure out if it was going to be Tuberville or Malzahn, but it's Trump. All three of them in the same boat. But go ahead.
They're in the same boat. But can you imagine? Trump is attacking Biden for his age. Now, Biden is 80. I think Trump is 77. So there's 3 years difference there, if that. And Trump is saying that he has a much better body than Biden, and that in a fight he could beat the hell out of Biden. look at his body versus Biden's body. Last time I checked, I don't think Trump had a body to write home about, to be honest with you.
He shouldn't have been bragging, huh?
No, I don't think so. Especially, I didn't see a six-pack under that suit there. I saw kind of a belly, if you want to say that.
A bulge. Well, you know, that's Trump. So that's it. That's interesting. So, I mean, I like Joe Biden, but, you know, I like to make fun of him, too. So I was going to ask you if somebody woke him up to tell him what Trump said.
I don't know if they did. You know, Uncle Joe is still moving kind of slow.
Okay. Anything else from you and Barbara?
Well, that's all I have.
We're going to move on to Sean. She's got a minute for us. Sean, you got a minute?
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Yesterday was Indigenous Peoples Day, a day where we honor the perseverance and courage of Indigenous peoples by showing gratitude for the myriad of contributions they made to the world and our renewed commitment to respect tribal sovereignty and self-determination. The story of America's Indigenous peoples is the story of their resilience and survival and of their persistent commitment to their right to self-governance and their determination to preserve cultures, identities, and ways of life. Long before European explorers sailed to this continent, Native American and Alaska Native nations made this land their home, some for thousands of years before the United States was founded. They built many nations that created powerful, prosperous, and diverse cultures, and they developed knowledge and practices that still benefit us today. Throughout our nation's history, Indigenous peoples have faced violence and devastation that has tested their limits. For generations, it was the shameful policy of our nation to remove Indigenous peoples from their homelands, force them to assimilate, and ban them from speaking their own languages, passing down ancient traditions, and performing sacred ceremonies. Countless lives were lost, precious lands were taken, and their way of life was forever changed. In spite of unimaginable loss and insurmountable odds, Indigenous peoples have persisted. They survived, and they continue to be part of the fabric of the United States. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
All right. Good deal, Sean. So let's go to the G list. Hollywood's got the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we got the G list. And our G list guests today, we've got two guests today, Joe Cribbs and Byron Franklin. Both of them were outstanding college football players at Auburn University and outstanding professional football players. They both ended up with the Buffalo Bills. Cribbs was a second-round draft choice of the Buffalo Bills. While he was with Buffalo, he went to 3 Pro Bowls. In '84, he moved to the USFL, where he was unanimous All-USFL selection running back of the year, and he led the Birmingham team to the playoffs. Let me just go. Byron Franklin. Byron is from Sheffield, Alabama. Byron was also with the Buffalo Bills. He was a wide receiver and did great. And Byron, I think one of the things I just always want to say about Byron is that he was appointed to the Auburn University Board of Trustees and served from 1999 to 2012. He chaired the University Student Affairs Committee. It was quite an honor, and he stood up to it well. And so let's welcome these two guys, and we'll get some questions for them. Joe Cribbs and Byron Franklin. Come on, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. How we doing?
Doing great. How are you?
All right. Byron, you dressed up there with all the microphones and all. You look like you ought to be on ESPN instead of Tuesdays with Thom.
Well, I'm following my mentor, Thom Gossam, and I'm starting a podcast. I'm starting a podcast, so this is a set. This is why I didn't have to.
It looks great.
Came down, yeah.
It looks great. Let me ask you guys. You ended up going to the same team a year apart. What was that like? Was it good to have a familiar face there?
Well, I didn't have a familiar face. You got to remember now, he followed me. I think it would have been a lot easier if I was following him. It would have kind of softened everything up before I got there. but so that question is probably better for you, Byron.
Yeah, it is. It was easier to have Joe there. I mean, obviously to have a familiar face and to have someone that you can talk to on a friendly basis when you're going in that environment, I mean, I can just imagine for Joe, you know, you going in that environment, you fighting for your life first and foremost. And back in those days, they could bring as many people in camp as they wanted to. So I think it was like, when I got there, man, I think it was like 15 or 20 receivers fighting for 4 spots or maybe 3 spots because the starters wasn't going anywhere. So, you know, you're just understanding the whole environment. But I got this story. I was riding in the car with Joe. I don't even know if he remembers this, but I was riding in the car with him. We went downtown Buffalo and we went by to get something to eat or something, pick up something. And, and there was some shades on the ground outside or laying on the sidewalk. And I said, Joe, I said, stop, man, there's some shades on the ground. I said, stop, let me go get them. He said, Byron, you're a professional football player now. You don't have to go outside and pick up shades off the ground. So to answer that, you know, it was another opportunity for me to have somebody that was really kind of a mentor, someone who could kind of teach me the ropes and talk me through the process, because we were just really young at that time. Right now, you got guys coming out of college. You got guys that are seniors in college that are the same age as we were as rookies in the NFL because of this 6 senior thing. So we were really young, man, when we came out of college.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk. Let's talk about that. What do you think about? It's very different than when we were in college. I mean, what do you think about the NIL and the transfer portal and just where the game is today? Either one of you.
Joe, you go first.
Well, I think as an athlete, when we played, especially as an amateur when we were in college, everybody wanted, and thought they were going to get to the next level and make some money. Of course, now the athletes have an opportunity to make money in college. So I think if you look at that, it's good because everybody else is making money off them. It's good, but in some ways, I think it just takes the whole idea of college football. It's a little different. It's a little different. And even when I look at it now, it's a little different. The fact that these guys can play at one school and the next year they could be at another school is kind of something that is kind of really hard to imagine. Yeah. I wish I was playing in that era because I would take advantage of it, and I'm sure everybody would. But it just makes your team, your team is just not your team because you never know. Like when you think about certain players in the past, you associate them with a school, with a university. I think if you mention certain guys' name, you automatically think of the school. And it's slowly starting to change. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah, I think the major aspect of it is that I see is it loses the loyalty of commitment to a school. It's become more of a professional sport because and you have to look at it on both sides. I don't think from a coach's standpoint they're always looking for the next best player. So they always they lacked a little bit of loyalty because it was all about trying to win. So they didn't have as much loyalty to you, particularly individually. But now the players have the same right. They don't have to be as loyal to the school as well. So I think it loses, like Joe was saying, I think what's really lost is a loyalty and commitment to one school and staying there. When we were there, we went on probation. And actually, all of us had the opportunity to leave because of the fact that we went on probation. And we were on probation my last 3 years. All 3 of my last, like my sophomore, junior, and senior year, we were on probation. So we never played on national television after our first year. We didn't play on regional TV or national. So it really was opportunity for us to leave. But most of us, because we made the commitment to go to Auburn, we made the commitment to be at Auburn. And so I don't think anybody left. I think we all stayed there and rode it out But I think loyalty is lost, and I also think that it's a situation where the players now, they're just not as committed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's
Yeah,
really,
the face of the teams, Tom, the face of the teams are changing so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Like
I mean, it's a sign of the times. I mean, and that's just the way it is now. But the thing that I don't understand is I still don't understand the NIL situation. I mean, to me, it's like it seems like every university or every school has their own idea of how it goes. Some spread stuff all over for all players. Some seems to go out and just recruit one or two key players. I'm not sure exactly how the NIL is working. That might be a good theme or topic for your next show or one of your future shows.
we're working on that. Yeah, we're working on that. Yeah, I think so. I agree with you guys. You know, that was just such a loyalty thing. You were at this school for your 4 years or 4 to 5 years if you were redshirted or what have you.
Yeah.
And it's a different world. And I don't know. I one of my coaches told me I always talk back, so I might be better off today than I was when I was there talking back.
You're a renegade.
I didn't think I was talking back. I think I just had an opinion, but
yeah.
I can tell you this. I can tell you this. I think that one thing that it has done is created a lot more parity, because you have so many players that are in that transfer portal that top-notch guys are now on the market that for whatever reason they're in that transfer portal. So these, what we used to call directional schools, now have the ability to go out and get a kid who is really a D1 Power 5 player, maybe not getting a chance to play, and they pull this guy in, and they're able to kind of fit the pieces together to build their teams a little better than they normally would have, because they couldn't get a guy to come to that school. Well, because of that, they have the opportunity now to pull guys in.
Yeah, and I think too, getting ahead of the curve. I think I think there's a lot of not really knowing what the future holds for these guys in these schools, because I think some of the schools out there are actually testing. They're right on the edge of what is legal and what is not legal. I mean, they're kind of like pushing the envelope to the max, and I think right now nobody's really kind of roping them in, pulling them back in. So it's really right now, it's kind of like the wild, wild west. I mean, when you have a kid like the quarterback for, he's currently at USC, I forgot his name, but
Taylor.
But he left what I thought was, he had a great year, and he jumps to the West Coast to USC, and I'm sure whatever inducement there was to get him there,
$3.5 million. I understand.
Yeah, it was. That's what I'm saying. It was. So now you're looking at, is this college football or is this professional football?
Yeah, it's professional.
It's most definitely.
Hey, he's probably making more than a lot of rookies in the NFL.
That's a big. That contract was bigger than my first contract.
That contract was bigger than my whole career.
Well, speaking on that, Joe, you saying you didn't understand the NIL, and I understand exactly what you're saying. And Byron, you can speak to this, but I don't understand how they come up with the evaluation of a player's NIL worth. Because you think about somebody coming out of high school, and there are a couple of players that Auburn missed out on in recruiting. They were already committed to Georgia. It was this 5-star safety out of Buford. I think his last name is Bolton. He decommitted talked to Auburn, ended up committing to Miami, I think.
Yeah.
And then just recently, another wide receiver out of Georgia, Nye Carr, decommitted, talked to Auburn, committed to Miami. Now, I was told over the weekend from a Georgia alum that the reason why he went to Miami is that some booster promised him $30,000 a month if they came to Miami.
Wow.
So,
Well, who's basically creating these values? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I think it depends on the schools. You would think that the schools with the deeper pockets and the more support are going to be able to attract the players, because when it comes right down to it, I mean, we all can kind of agree to this. I think that most of the time, what we get paid is a big incentive as to where we want to work, right?
Right.
I think we can all kind of agree to that. So if you got 10 schools bidding for your service and negotiating with you on coming there, I mean, the compensation got to be right, and then of course the atmosphere has to be right, because that's the deciding factors, I think, in all of this.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the things I think is that, people, I've often heard people say they didn't follow professional sports, professional baseball, or professional football, or professional basketball, because the players change teams so often. And they're, in other words, that I like the Spurs, but now these guys ain't there anymore, so I don't like them anymore, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing's happening now with college sports.
That's exactly right.
I think you're loyal to your college, even though when I watched Auburn play, none of those the first game I watched them play, none of those names were familiar to me.
Right.
It's different now, and so
that's the same.
I knew the quarterback's name just because they had the two quarterbacks in a competition, and so that was what was always reported on.
Right.
But I still don't. What is it? The fifth game? I still don't know the players. So.
Yes.
So Michael, let me just before I want to ask you this, but somebody sent a comment on your comment about Trump that said 45 is scandiculous. Trump looks like an egg with legs.
I would have to agree with that assessment. He absolutely does. And for Trump to be arrested and say he was 6'3", 230, that's wrong.
That's a
That
joke.
is totally wrong.
And Barbara, you had a comment.
I'm sorry. I made a mistake. He said he was 6'3", 215. So
yeah, that's
still wrong.
That's even worse.
That is.
You're wrong.
Barbara, don't forget to
Yes.
do a shout out to your grandparents'
Yes.
oldest living granddaughter, Maggie.
Wow.
Maggie Davis today is
Is it-
84. Want to wish her a happy birthday.
Congratulations and happy
Yes.
birthday.
Man, that's wonderful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, Michael, Barbara, who's got a question for the guys?
Well, I got one question I want to hit both of them with. This past weekend in the Missouri LSU game, a player was ejected for unsportsmanlike conduct. The first time he got a penalty was because he was caught kicking a player that was trying to remove himself from a pile.
Yeah.
The second time he was ejected because he got a penalty for spitting on somebody.
Yeah.
So I'd like for you guys to tell me what was your most egregious unsportsmanlike conduct you observed during your playing days.
That's interesting right there. I don't know. There's been some guys that I've played against that were what I would call nasty players, that they play a little dirty. That's a hard call. I mean, I think some of the greater players that I played against, like Lawrence Taylor, maybe Chip Banks,
Yeah.
right? These guys, they would take you down but they didn't really they didn't say much to you. And for me personally, I never really listened, because if I gained 1 yard, or whether I gained 10 yards or 100 yards, usually I just got up and got back in the huddle. I mean, that was kind of my thing. But the only guy that I really, as far as like that I felt like did me wrong, was maybe this guy, I think his name was Kurt Cockendall, a guy that played for Clemson, that was actually playing for the Atlanta Braves at the time. He's a linebacker. And I remember Booker Moore, we were playing at the Falcons. Booker Moore, my fullback, we ran a lead play. Booker slipped, tripped or whatever, and fell in the hole. So I'm right behind him coming. And so I jumped. I just kind of like going to elevate and get over him. And when I did that, he caught me in the air and drove me back. And he kind of like put a little extra into it when he put me to the ground. And it was probably the hardest hit I ever had as a professional athlete. And I did, I definitely felt like that was a little bit of a dirty play, but it was a clean play.
Yeah. Well, when I hear dirty plays and stuff that was underhanded, the first name I think about is a guy that was on our team, and his name was Conrad Dobler. Now, Conrad tripped people. He clipped people. He did everything. But y'all got to remember, we played in an era when there was not a whole lot that really was a foul.
Yeah.
Right.
So guys did stuff, man, that you wouldn't even be able to get away with now, like blindside blocks, blindside hits. That stuff was normal football back when we were playing. Quarterbacks, they were fair game.
Yeah.
So it was a lot rougher in that day, in that period, than they have now. A lot of coaches call it powder puff football now, because really it's almost just 7-on-7. But really,
you can't touch the quarterback.
Yeah, you can't touch the quarterback. And so I think for me personally, playing against the Raiders and playing against Lester Hayes, I got an eye-opening experience. Lester didn't like anybody to go at his feet or to cut him. Most players at that time, they didn't want you getting around their legs, and they let you know it. Hey, don't do that. And so I was young, and I ran out there, and I had a run play. So I ran at Lester, and I dived at his legs. And so, man, first of all, he was crazy anyway. And so Lester, I get up. He grabs me around my neck from behind, and he's choking me and saying, "Don't you ever do that." And I'm looking at the ref, and the ref is sitting there looking at it, and I'm thinking, you ain't gonna call no foul. I guess he was afraid of him too. And he said, "Don't you ever." And I'm thinking, man, somebody need to throw a flag or something. And so,
man,
during that period, man,
Lester was one of the guys that I never liked playing against. I never wanted him to tackle me, because he always had that stickum all over here.
Yeah.
He had it everywhere. If he tackled you, it would be all over you too.
They didn't call him Lester the Molester for nothing.
He had it on the back of his hand.
I'm surprised Byron didn't talk about Jack Tatum. He talked
Well, see,
about Raiders.
Tatum was gone. He was gone.
Yeah, he was gone. Yeah, he was gone.
He was gone.
But now that Byron actually kind of like reminded me of the dirty play, and I do think Conrad Dobler, without a doubt, he was my teammate. But Conrad Dobler would do whatever it takes to win, to succeed. Just to accomplish his job, he would do whatever he's got to do, he would do it. And I mean, nothing's off the table. Nothing was off the table.
Yeah, his knees were gone. By the time we got there, he had both his knees were gone. So he was really just playing on guts and know-how and experience. And so he just really, he couldn't get around and move as much as he used to. So he used to leg whip people, man, and do
Yeah.
it was none of it was legal.
Wasn't he with the St. Louis Cardinals?
He was part of that great, those great, they had a great offensive line out there with
Banks.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yep, back
I'll tell you guys one thing, and this wasn't a dirty hit, but I thought it was really interesting. We were playing LSU down in LSU. It's the only game we lost that year. And they just jumped on us, man. You know, they just jump on you. You're down so far, so fast, you can't recover. So it was near the end of the game. The game was pretty much over. They were winning the game. And there was some controversy. And Charlie Mack, their coach, had come out in the middle of the field just fussing at the refs and fussing. And so as I walked back past him, I said, man, get off the field. He turned around and he said, F you. Oh, okay.
Didn't expect that from the coach. You know, that's one school. That's one school that I never got an opportunity to play against that I really wanted to. We never played LSU when I was at Auburn, and
we never could beat them. They one school that had our number.
And then after when you don't play them, they turn out some pretty good athletes too. Yeah, and we had several. We played, Byron and I had several guys in Buffalo that were from LSU, and we always talk about the real Tiger thing, all that stuff. But I never played them. I really wish I had an opportunity to play against them.
Playing down there at night was something. By the time the game started, they were all drunk, man, and they were cussing you out. And we ran out of the locker room, and the big tiger was right outside our locker room, man. We ran out there, and the tiger growled, boy, and all of us stopped, And they had Burt Jones, who ended up being an all NFL quarterback,
Yeah, they turned out some pretty good athletes out of
they did.
Too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, Barbara, you got a question?
I do. I want to ask both of you gentlemen about after your playing days, you both became entrepreneurs, owned businesses. And I'm just wondering, is this something that they taught you about when you were at Auburn, or is this something you just on your own just decided you wanted to have business and be entrepreneurs? Joe, we'll start with you.
Well, I always wanted to be the boss and own my own business, and I, immediately after retiring from professional football, I actually started out in the car wash industry.
I remember.
I had like three, and I quickly found out that being the boss isn't all that it's cracked up to be.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of work and a lot of responsibility and a lot of warranty, because I ended up I had to take care of a lot of people that didn't get the service that was offered that they should have gotten. Right. And so I was in that business for a couple of years, and I realized that I needed to get out of it. So I did. And I got into financial services. I got my insurance license and went on and did, and I'm still do that kind of I'm kind of semi-retired. But and in that business, I actually was recruited by a guy, and it's kind of an interesting little story. I had a guy that basically came to sell me some insurance products. And he came year after year after year. He pursued me for like 3 or 4 years. And one day he came into my office there and he said, Joe, you never gonna buy any insurance from me. He said, but you ought to get in this business. And, we started to talk from a different perspective, and he was coming at me at a different angle. And the more I thought about it, and there were some challenges because they were talking about how difficult it was to get licensed and all that kind of stuff. And I've always been up for a challenge. You give me a challenge, give me something that somebody else can't do. I want to try it. So I quickly, I took, I think it was like a couple of months, and took my test, got my license, got my security license, got all that stuff done, and went on to enjoy that career because I was actually giving back to a lot of guys like me who, when they were, young, getting started, making a little money, didn't know what to do, giving them some good advice. So, I mean, that to me is better than, being an all pro or, it's giving back.
Well, on my perspective, I didn't make enough money to live off of for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I was going to have to do some things to continue to support myself and my family. And I always like to tell this story about Thom. Thom would come back to the university, and he would always remembered him coming back, and he was going to talk to all the guys. And I can't remember whether it was just the black players or whether it was everybody, but he would come up and meet with us and sit in study hall, and he'd say, guys, I just need to talk to you and let you know that you really need to take advantage of this opportunity to get your education, and because you're not going to play sports forever. And most of y'all are not gonna make it to the NFL. And he pointed me out. He said, see, Byron back there, he thinks I'm gonna make it to the NFL. And I was thinking to myself, you're right, I am gonna play. But he always would come back and talk to us. And I watched Thom, and I told him this not long ago, that he has always been a contemporary role model for me, because he came out of Auburn. He did go to the NFL for a minute, but he came back. He started TGC, Thom Gosson Communications. I noticed that. I watched him with that. He went on and worked on his professional career in acting, and he kept moving with that. He did the consulting stuff. And I always saw that as a model that, you need to continue to do things. And I'm still searching. I mean, I think I'm still searching for my actual niche. Everybody wants to be successful, and that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Like Joe is saying, success to me is being able to do something that's going to really, being successful means you're doing something that other people can benefit from.
Right.
And so the restaurant, when I started the Buffalo Connection, I was really proud of it, not because I created a restaurant that was successful, but because there were students and there were people who needed that money to survive. I mean, they needed it for college, for funding themselves. They needed it for their families. And so that part of it really, to me, was a part of being successful. And I'm still, I have a Greater Light Publishing, a publishing company, and of course I'm involved. I've been a pastor for 20 years, and being involved with being an administrator for a lot of different other areas. I'm still looking for my gold jacket. I'm trying to find my gold jacket, my Hall of Fame jacket in life, and I just hadn't gotten it yet.
Tell us a little bit about serving on the board of trustees at Auburn. You were pretty young when you did that.
Very young. It was a volatile time. Obviously, there was a lot going on with the board of trustees. Of course, Louder was on there at the time. I'm sorry, I don't know where that noise is coming from, but Louder was on the board at the time, Bobby Louder, and so he was very controversial. And so it was an amazing honor to even be chosen to serve on the board. I feel like that I had a responsibility to represent the Black constituency related to the Auburn University experience. There are two things that I'm very proud of that took place during my tenure. Number one, Harold Franklin and Pettijohn getting honorary degrees. I was responsible for helping to initiate that. And then having Mel Rosen's name placed on the track at Auburn, to me, those two things I was directly involved in pushing to make happen. And so there are a lot of other aspects of serving on the board, obviously, that I'm proud of. The new facility, the new basketball arena, the initial stages of getting that done, I was a part of. The family, the student center, the athletic center and recreational center was a part of our tenure there. The new dormitories for the athletes was a part of that process. And so there are a host of things that I was involved in and being a part of that I'm very proud of. But those two things really stick out, and I'm glad I'm not there now. But because it's a public life. Yeah, it's a public life. So, it's just I'm glad to not have to deal with the public side of it. But it was a tremendous experience and tremendous honor.
Good deal. Okay, Michael, Barbara, you got no more questions?
Well, I have a couple. One of our viewers said, "How is your mind and body after so many years of playing college and pro football?" And perhaps he's talking about CTE and what have you, as well as the body breaks down. In just talking with you guys seem the same old guys I knew when I was at Auburn and stuff. But can you comment on that?
We were crazy then, see, so you can't really tell.
Can't say you're any crazier.
You can't say you're any crazy. Transitioning out of athletics mentally from a psychological standpoint is one of the most challenging things I think that we face. That's why I'm starting a podcast called The Shoulder Pad, because it's an opportunity for athletes to really, it started out as an opportunity for athletes to come on and talk about, because a lot of us have not made it out. We've not transitioned out, and we could be out of it for 10, 15, 20 years and still emotionally and psychologically not make it out. And so I started the Shoulder Pad to give us a vehicle to kind of talk about our transition, talk to guys who've done a great job of it, like Thom and Joe, to talk about what steps did you take? What were you thinking at the time? So other guys can hear that and be able to say, okay, that may be an idea for me. And I've talked to several guys about that. But physically, it's an ongoing process. I know we are involved in a class action lawsuit for CTE right now. And the issue with CTE is you really can't prove you have it until you're dead and they do an autopsy on your brain. So there are symptoms that look a lot like dementia, look a lot like Alzheimer's disease. And so that aspect of it, there's an ongoing process of figuring out how to deal with that and just, evaluating your body very closely. Physically, I think I'm probably one of the most fortunate, because I can still walk and still have faculty. I've had a knee replacement. I've had surgery on a knee. I've had back surgery. I've had shoulder surgery. And I'm one of the lighter ones. Joe probably had a whole lot more contact. Probably he had a whole lot more contact than I did, and he'll have to speak on it himself.
Joe?
No question about that as far as the contact goes. But I think the real thing, and trying to answer the question that you got, is that we don't know. We're still living, and we're still every year you discover something new. And I've like Byron said, we've had a lot of injuries. I certainly had surgery on my wrist, had knee surgery, actually have been in discussions about, the possibility of knee replacement, but something that I'm not really looking forward to or wanting to do right away. But a lot of people are saying that the sooner you get it done, the better it is. I'm still debating on that right now. But as far as the mental aspect, those are the kind of things that we don't know. We just, like Byron said, most of the guys don't find out until they're gone. Or they don't find, I guess they don't ever find out, but their families find out that, you know, we played a sport that is a violent sport, you know, and, you know, it takes a toll on your body, you know, physically it's tough on you. Mentally, a lot of people don't realize that mentally it's tough on you too, because it's a constant, as a professional athlete, there's a constant fear of being released, you know, getting cut, being released. You know, it's not all the stars and the lights and everything. I mean, there's a lot of competition. You got what is it? 53. Back when we played, I think it was 53 spots. And you go into training camp. You go into training camp with about 100 guys, and you got so half of those guys are going home. And that's tough. I didn't realize that, to be honest with you. I didn't realize that
the pressure
until I got to San Francisco. When I got traded to San Francisco, you know, I went into camp. I mean, I had played a few years and didn't even think about getting, you know, my job is not in jeopardy. I'm planning 6 months down the road. What I'm going to be doing? What I'm going to? I knew what I was going to be eating the next. You know, but the whole point is you don't really. It's not guaranteed that you were going to be there back then. So I got a quick understanding of that in San Francisco. I had surgery. This was my second year there. This is going into my third year in San Francisco. I had surgery on my knee. Coach told me, we don't need to see you, man. Rest, get well, and all that kind of stuff. And so I didn't play. He said, we're going to have you ready for the last preseason game. Just relax. So I did what I was told. I didn't have any concern about not being there or anything. So we get to the last preseason game, and I don't touch the field. I mean, I don't play at all. And my backup really was playing good. I have to give him credit. But the next day after the game, I went in early to see Coach Walsh. I wanted to know why I didn't play. You know, I was supposed to be getting ready for the home opener, for the opening game. So I go in and I literally take 2 steps into his office, and he stands up, says, "Joe, we decided to go with the other guy." And I was like, shocked. I had never, I mean, that is like being fired. I mean, it is being fired.
It is.
So I had never experienced it. And I was like, okay, so what do I do next? So I just turn around, walk out of his office, and called my agent, told him what had happened, and he was on the phone, you know, got me hooked up with another team and all this kind of stuff. But that was the first time I really experienced it, you know, something like that, you know, because and then from that point on, I was aware and I was concerned about that everywhere I played for the rest of my career. I was like, oh man, am I gonna make this team? Am I gonna make this roster? And that's an issue, and that does play on you mentally.
I mean,
guys, people always say when they go to an NFL team, and if they get cut, they say, well, I had a cup of coffee with so-and-so and so-and-so. I always say, well, I had 2 cups. And that day I saw that coach, and they'd made the last cut, and I said, oh man, I think I made this team. And I saw that joker walking towards me, and I said, oh yeah, you know, I knew here he comes, you know. But I knew it comes out.
And Thom, and I hope the listening audience knows this. Okay, it is about that much difference. In making it and not making it. You got those guys who get an opportunity to like just smell the NFL, just the opportunity to be there, be in a camp,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have talent to do that. You got to have really good. You got to have some talent.
That's right.
And so the difference between making it and not making it is about like that. It's just sometimes it's just luck. Sometimes it's just injuries and things. But it is an experience that you can't really explain it. You have to be there to understand it.
And I'll tell you this. I'll say this too. The difference between, and this may be hard to believe, but the difference between the guys who do make it and then those guys, obviously the Hall of Famers, they are really, 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 really great players. But the difference between guys who are there and guys who make it to the Hall of Fame is only about this much because they're in the right place with the right team, with the right coach, with the right offense or defense, and it's all fitted for them. And
that's right.
My example is this. I get drafted to Buffalo, and I play in Buffalo for 4 years. In my 4th season, I lead the team in receiving. Okay, watch this. While I'm there, they draft this guy by the name of Jim Kelly, but he goes to the USFL. And Jim Kelly is in the USFL with the Houston Gamblers, and he's throwing the ball all over the place. I mean, but Buffalo has his rights to in the NFL. So after my 4th season, I get traded to Seattle. Jim Kelly comes into Buffalo. The kid that's behind me named Andre Reed, who is behind me, now becomes a starter. And he goes to the Hall of Fame because he has this dude that's throwing the ball all over the place. And I always tell him, I said, man, you know you got my yellow jacket, don't you? You got my gold. but that is just the difference between, because all of the guys up there, if you like Joe says, if you make it up there, I don't care if you just get to a camp. There's something uniquely different about you that makes you a great player. And so that's the kind of aspect of what he's saying. The variations are really very minute.
They're small. They're very small.
Yeah.
And
I mean, those guys, when you practice, especially when you practice with those guys, because you play, you practice every day with them. Hey, this guy was supposed to be so great, but you eat him up in practice. And then, but in the game, you might get an opportunity. But it's about that much of the difference.
Well, Byron, you mentioned that how many receivers that we had 19 receivers in camp, and only 4 were gonna make it.
That's
and
right.
Three of them were already on the team.
That's right.
So that means you had 16 guys for one job.
For one job.
That's right.
And think about this. Think about the pressure of this.
You got to think about that. You got to really stand out some kind of way.
That's what I'm saying.
To catch their eye. And so, I mean, it's just.
I didn't realize how much pressure was involved in that until I got out of the game. But to think about that scenario, only one guy is going to make it out of 19 guys. Just think about that. Mm-hmm. And they have a person with a pad and a pen at practice watching every single play that you're playing. And they are you either caught it or you dropped it or, whatever. They're putting marks by your name in practice as to how you performed each play. Now think about the pressure of that.
And sometimes it's not based upon your athletic talent. It's based upon other factors. I mean, what's your approach to the team? I mean, what's your value to the team in other areas? Yeah. It's a lot of factors that comes into play. But these are things that you really don't know about it unless you experience it.
That's right.
Let me ask you guys this before we get off here: turf versus grass. That whole argument has come back. I know when I was at Auburn, Coach Jordan hated turf, and so we hated turf. And so because we had such a negative attitude about turf going into the game, we always lost the turf games because we didn't want to play it.
We want to play on it.
How turf versus grass, you guys' reaction and that discussion has come up again about changing all the fields to grass.
Grass. I mean, it's to me, it's not even an argument. It's grass. Yeah. I mean, it's grass. I mean, injuries happen because of turf.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
My career ended.
So,
My career ended in the Kingdom on turf without me being touched by anyone. And I blew my knee out trying to make a cut on the turf. So Joe is absolutely right. The injury level goes sky high when you play on turf, not to mention burns and scrapes and scars and stuff like that. But they're trying to simulate grass with the artificial turf now, where they have the rubber to simulate as close as they can to grass. We were I was in Seattle when they started the whole concept of that. And initially what they put under, they had the blades, and then they worked sand in, and nobody could keep their feet because they were sliding all the time because of the sand. So they had to get away from doing sand, and that's how they got to the rubber. But it's no question that irregular grass is better.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what that is. Okay. Barbara, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I just want to thank Byron and Joe both for giving back to the community. Both of them have been involved in several of the projects I've been involved in here in Birmingham, supporting Children's Village. And I know they travel all over the country. I actually attended a golf tournament that hosted by Jim Kelly in Buffalo, where they both were attendants, and that was supporting nonprofit organizations there. And so thank you for all that you all continue to do.
All right, thank you. Michael, you got a final go around?
Well, the final is guys, it's good to see you guys. Like I said, you still look the same back when we were in Auburn and stuff. Still sound the same. And I'm happy that you guys are doing well. I wish you guys were able to play for Deion Sanders. I'd like to see you guys playing for him.
Well, yeah, his son's making $4.5 million right now, so I'd like to be his son right now. I just want to be one of his kids.
Exactly. He's not going pro. He's making more money in college than he would in pro level. He's staying there.
It is the new pro. It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
And I'm gonna say this: he has done a tremendous job of modeling what the head coaching position really should be, which is about loving on these kids, mentoring these kids, and really working with them to develop them for lifelong aspirations and dreams, and not just trying to get production out of them to win. He's doing a marvelous job of modeling that. And to be honest with you, I think Auburn had the opportunity to have what Colorado has when they had Cadillac in the position. I really do, because the momentum, not taken away from Coach Freeze, but there was a special momentum that had been created at the end of the season when Cadillac was at the helm. And it was more than just about him as a head coach. It was about the whole culture shift. And really, you have the same thing in Colorado. You have a guy who played the game, who is charismatic, who is identifiable, who players love and have the opportunity to be a part of. And I think that is exactly where we were at the end of the season when Cadillac was the head coach. And it would have taken a lot of guts, and it would have taken a lot of faith to actually make that decision to put him at the helm. But realistically, we had then what Colorado has now.
I agree.
And you see the fruits of that decision, because be honest, the guy at Colorado who was about to be fired as the AD, they were about to send him packing. So he made a I'm jumping off the cliff decision. I'm making this call. I'm going to go with it. And if I'm going out swinging.
Right.
And he went out and he got Deion. And so that's the result of it. I'm very proud of Deion Sanders, very proud of what he represented, what he's doing, what he did in the game, and what he's doing now. Because a lot of people don't know Deion at one point was about to commit suicide. He was struggling psychologically, emotionally, and he admitted that he had really considered taking his life. And he's little to be known. He's fighting for his life while he's doing this with all of the issues that he has going on. with his leg. And, they wanted to take his entire leg when he was in tennis at Jackson State, but he wouldn't allow him to do it. So he's still battling physically. But while he's battling, he's giving everything he has, everything he knows back, while he's being a father in front of everybody. And I just think that that's just a tremendous testimony to his life.
I agree. Okay. Somebody talked about indigenous people. I think it was Sean. It's a great book, Man Killer. She was chief of the Cherokee Nation. It's a woman. It's an older book, but it's a great book. I just picked up and started reading. And if you want to read about indigenous peoples, this is a great book to pick up and read. Okay, finally, is that it for everybody? But man, I appreciate you guys coming on. That's been great. Hey, Joe, I know the other thing I wanted to tell you. Elijah Pitts was your coach. No, I didn't play with Elijah Pitts. No, I didn't know Elijah Pitts. But my daddy loved Elijah Pitts when he was with the Green Bay Packers. Boy,
hey, he told me something about being a professional athlete. I can tell you that. He told me my rookie year, I did not want to block. Especially when they were bringing pass rushing linebackers in, and I didn't want to do that. But he told me, he said, Joe, he said, you're a great runner. He said, but if you want to play in this league, you got to protect our quarterback. And he said, I don't care how you get the job done, you got to protect the quarterback. So I quickly learned how to get my hands inside and pull. I let a guy come down on top of me. I pull him down, go backwards, pull him down. I get a positive grade. I get a good grade for that because I did my job. But he taught me a lot about how to be a professional athlete.
I think the worst job was to be on the kickoff team. Oh my God, you could get killed out there, man. You know? I used to get out there and I'd run, and then you see that the ball is going to actually be out of play, and it's not going. And then I just run through the end zone like I was going to kill somebody, and stuff, because I knew I was on the camera. I knew the camera was on.
Running back kicks is a dangerous position. But I felt like running back punts, because I did punt return for 4 years at Auburn. I was a punt returner too, and I always felt like I had control, because if I didn't like it, I'd fair catch it, But I never liked kickoff return. Kickoff return, they come in full speed, and you're expected to run that ball back. That's I don't know about that one.
Yeah, that's a tough situation.
I like running the ball, but I didn't like getting tackled.
That's kind of hard to do it.
We had this guy on the kickoff team, and you know how sometimes on the kickoff team, the guy who is directly in front of you won't block you. They'll do a cross block. This guy from over here will come block you, and if you're not paying attention, he'll decapitate you, because you going this way. And this guy said when they kicked off, he was running, and the guy who was in front of him went on the other side of the fence. He said, that dummy don't even know who he's supposed to block. He got knocked out cold. He said, when I woke up, my whole family was in the hospital, standing over the bed.
I did. My hardest hit tackle was, I was on a punt return, and I caught the ball, and I was supposed to follow a guy by the name of Baby Johnson. We had Baby Johnson. Baby was about what, 6'5", 6'6"?
Yeah, he about 6'6", 280.
280, but he could run, and see, he was a lead guy. And so I caught the ball, and I found baby, and I'm behind baby, and I'm running, and this linebacker, I'll never forget his name because he tattooed me. His name is Eddie Johnson. He was with Cleveland. And I didn't really know a lot about running with the ball as far as being shifty and stuff. I'm a straight line guy. I just find a seam and outrun everybody. So I'm running with, I'm 4'3", baby. So I'm running behind baby, and this guy linebacker is in front of baby, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna. He took a step outside, and he was faking. He took a step outside of Baby Johnson, and then I took the inside lead. And when I went inside, that joker came back inside, and bam, he hit me so hard. He hit me so hard. He came over to me. He said, "Man, you all right?" I said, "Oh, I'm okay." And then baby came over to me and said, "Hey, baby, you got to stay with me, man. You got to stay with me, baby." I said, I got it. So I from that point on, I didn't like returning kicks either, man.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate it. It's been a great show, man. Enjoyed you guys very much. So we're going to move on here. We got to close it out. So, but thank you. Okay, my closing comments for today. That was a great show. I enjoyed those guys very much, or as I see it, on this October 10th. I read a piece in Sunday's New York Times about dogs and chocolate and how there are certain ingredients in some chocolates that can almost instantly kill your dog if your dog eats them. I'd always heard this, but we had a little dog, Sally. Sally gave us a firsthand testimony of how this worked. It was Christmas, maybe Christmas Eve. Wife had put the little snacks out for Christmas and stuff all out, and there was chocolate and cakes and snacks everywhere, and all the decorations were out. And we went looking at Christmas decorations in the neighborhood. Sally, she was a rescue from the Humane Society. Sally got into that snack dish, and I mean, she ate every piece of chocolate she could find. And so there was this instant panic. You know, we had heard and read about chocolate killer and wondered what to do. It was nearly 10 p.m. at night. We finally found a vet who would agree to see us. We rushed up to our office, and nothing. She said, "There's nothing wrong with this dog. This dog's fine." She had eaten them all. But Sally was what I call a street dog. She looked at me with that Sally smile on her face, boy. We opened the door to the vet's office. She ran and hopped in the car, and she was ready to go. Sally was in good shape after all. And that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. We want to thank our G-list guests, Joe Cribbs and Byron Franklin. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, and Joyce. That's it for this October the 10th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.